Right then, lads, today we have a MT making video. I know, Josh with an MT making video. It's weird, isn't it? It's very weird because I haven't done one in a while. So what we're going to be doing is I will show you guys some MT. I will show you guys the method. I will show you guys some receipts of obviously some results I've had, and then we'll just go from there. So if you guys are going to enjoy today's video and find it helpful, smash a like on the video. It does help your boy out a ton. Now, what we're going to be doing is we are looking at older sets. We're looking at clutch sets. We're looking at playoff dimers. We're looking at playoff stoppers. Season tip-off East and West, playoff underdogs, playoff records. We're looking at basically almost all of them, except for a few, and I'll discuss which ones you don't look at. You're going to be looking at certain sets, and you're going to be looking at certain players. Now, the sets I can tell you, kind of, but also you need to experiment with this, because you will probably lose MT if you don't obviously do this correctly. But if you do this correctly, you could make quite a bit of MT. So, what we're going to be doing is we are bidding and we are sniping. So, what you do is you just pick a set at random. Just pick any set. Now, the sets I don't recommend are idols and flash glitched and flash, just because if you lock those in, you don't get anything out of them. Also, with idols, I mean, if you want to obviously look at these cards, you can. I don't really recommend it, but you can. But in terms of like these idol sets, you don't get anything for them. These flash glitch sets, you don't get anything for them. This flash set, you don't get anything for it. So I would stay away from those sets. Now, what you're doing is you are picking a set, you are scrolling, and that's about it. You are picking a set, you are scrolling. And if you see anything, obviously, at the end, you can snipe it. Now, the best thing, the way to do this method, there's a snipe right there, I think. 3K, and the cheapest, but there's 3.8. So, if we scroll across, just to make sure there's nothing else, 3.5. All right, 3.3. Thankfully, we didn't pick that one up. Now, what you can do is, because we saw one for 3K, there's one for 950 here. What we're doing is we're bidding on this one. So if you sell a card for 3K, you get 2,700 back. Now, I recommend you write this down. I recommend you have a notepad. I recommend you have something to remember what prices you are looking to sell these cards for. Just because you will probably sometimes get lost in how much you're supposed to list a card up for, and then you could obviously potentially lose some MT. So obviously, the way this method works that's brilliant is because you are using some very obscure random cards that you are bidding on. You can sometimes, when you're bidding on them, get some absolute banging deals. You can get some absolute insane deals. Some of the deals you can get are literally astronomical. And I will, of course, show you some of the deals that I've got with this method. So, again, you just click in, you're scrolling. Is there anything there? No. You move on to the next one. Now, the way to do this method properly is, as soon as you see a potential deal, as soon as you see a card, the way to obviously determine whether you should scroll forward is, what you do is, when you decide that maybe, okay, this card might be worth doing, if it's, say, for example, like, this is just as an example, like, go to Kobe Bryant, as you can see, scroll, okay, maybe not that one, which card should we use, which card? LaMelo Ball, for example. As you can see, scroll wheel is very, very small. You are not going to scroll this entire 4 hours to find that card, are you? Because you'll be here for, you know, a good few minutes. So, what you're doing is you are hunting cards that basically, once you search on it, you can scroll to the end literally within seconds. 13,000 per page there. The cheapest one there is 21,000. Ah, there's a 17,000 one there. To be fair, it's not a terrible deal, I'll be honest. So, once you actually pick up the card, so this is just off the cuff. So, as you can see there, we got Thornmaker. I will discuss that Thornmaker in a little bit, but as you can see, slash 1,900. We're going to send this to my auctions. I'll quickly list this JD crossover up real quick. So once we get this up, we shall obviously discuss how I got that Thornmaker and etc, etc. So Thornmaker at the moment is probably one of my favorite players to do this with, just because I don't know why people keep listing him up well below his auction house price. It's really, really strange. Now, if you are listing a card that is an old card, that is obviously a card that's in a 5 to 7 card set, I recommend you list it up for 12 hours, because odds on, at the moment for me, it's about 8:30 right now. So in America, it's about 3:30 in the East and 12:30 in the West. So I list them for either 12 hours or 24 hours. The reason why is because obviously once it's late at night, there are less cards being added to the market. That way it then bumps up your cards, because obviously there's less cards in the market, so there's less competition, there's less people. Obviously you have to take that into account. There is going to be less people. But essentially, so once we sell that card, we'll probably make about 1,000 to 2,000 MT. So now, the thing you have to remember is, obviously, there are some people that do this method as well. There are some people who just want to sell their cards. If you get undercut, do not get tilted. If you get undercut, because it does happen, like it happened with this Chris Webber, I listed it, and then someone like 10 minutes later listed it for 17,000. if you get undercut, this is where you listing for 12 hours comes in handy, because if you're listing your cards for 12 hours, obviously that will then in turn try and obviously help your card be at the top of the list. So if it's cards like these tip off east cards, like obviously these will sometimes take a while to sell just because there's not that much value or there's not that much demand for a card like this. Like RJ Barrett, obviously it is technically the best RJ Barrett card we have at the moment, so it maybe might sell. But other cards like these, like 2800 for Isaac Bonga, that could easily sell. I did manage to snipe this for 850 actually, and the reason why you're listening for 12 hours, obviously there is a chance it could just sell randomly in the last like 5-10 minutes, because that obviously does happen as well. But in terms of like if you're listing a card for about 4,000, it's an obscure card. Like, are you like, I'll be honest guys, how many of you guys are gonna pick up an Isaiah Ryder? The people that are picking these cards up, like an Isaiah Ryder, are people that want to lock in the set. People that want to lock in like a Josh Smith or something. So if I go to this Isaiah Ryder, odds on I've been undercut, and I have. So I've been undercut. I got undercut by this 8K one, but it's still the second cheapest card on the auction house to my knowledge, I think. Was mine 9.5? Yeah, it was. So obviously we have to wait for that 8K one to sell, but obviously because it's been up, it's just going to be up for 12 hours. It's very obvious, it's very likely that the card is going to sell. Again, I've listed a card up for 12 hours, it's sold within minutes. I've listed cards up for 12 hours, and it's sold within the last few minutes. That's the way this auction house works. It's why I love the auction house. I love how random and obscure it is. Now, onto the receipts. As you can tell, I have a few of them. So we have a Kyle Lowry, Kyrie Irving beer for 5.5, and the cheapest is 8K. I did actually sell a Kyrie Irving, which I'll show you guys in a bit. I sold a Kyrie Irving for 9K, and thankfully I did, because then someone listed one up for 8K. Right, this Thorn Maker. Now, obviously, this is another Thorn Maker, a 1.8. So I'll show you guys that one. We have a Chris Paul here that I bought for 2.7, and the cheapest is 4.4. I listed that up for 4K. This RJ Barrett that you guys just saw, we sniped it for 950. Obviously, there's one up for 1500, so I just undercut it. If it sells, happy days. This Isaiah Thomas. Now, I managed to pick this card up for 5K on a bid, and I actually sold it for 10.5K. So I'm making about 4,000 MT profit on this card. So decent profit made there. We have a Ben Gordon here that I sniped for 10,000 MT. It'd been up for like, I think 5 or 10 minutes. And the cheapest on the market was about 18K. So I think I listed mine for 16K. What I tend to do as well is sometimes if you aren't that experienced with the auction house, you might see, obviously you can list this card. If it sells, obviously you make MT. But I might obviously look at a card and see, if I buy that card for 16K and sell it for 19K, I am technically making profit. So that's something I try and incorporate as well, just because if you do see a Ben Galton for 16K and the cheapest, maybe it's 15, 16K, and you see the cheapest is 18K, technically, if you do buy that 16K, you are going to make some profit if you sell it for 18K. So I kind of try and make that into a thing. As you can see here, this is Isaiah Thomas. I bid, obviously, I must have bid cheaper than it. What I tend to do in this situation is obviously there is one for 11K. I try and make sure there's some wiggle room. So I think I bid actually 9,000 MT on this card, just in case someone did undercut me, and obviously then it expired, and then I checked the price, it's gone down to maybe like, I don't know, like 10K for example, and I sell the card for 10K, I'm only breaking even. And because I won it on a bid, obviously I will actually still be making profit. So that's where the bidding method comes in handy. Got a Robert Parrish here, it was the cheapest he was going for 2K, I bid on it for 1,700. And I managed to win it for, I think, 1,150 off the top of my head there. There's a Chris Paul here for 1,200. Managed to snipe him, and I'm going to list him up for 1.9. Kevin Love here, I sniped for 4.5, and the cheapest is 7.8. It's just, there's a really easy method to go out and buy some cards. Isaac Bonga here, 950. It was literally just up, just been up for 2 minutes. There's a Glenn Robinson here for 2.6. It's been up for 10 minutes. The cheapest was 4.2. Again, guys, this is a very easy method to go out and do. A Pau Gasol here in the final set, 1.5K, his cheapest was 2.8. Now, I also got, when I bought it and I took the snapshot, I saw that 1.8 bid there, but thankfully that was just a bid. The card itself was actually listed up for 2.8K. So we lucked out on that one. Here's that Chris Webber. Now, as you can see, I did say to you guys that I did get undercut, but because I got it at such a good price at 3.8K, even if I have to list it for like, obviously I listed mine for I think 9.5, even if I ever list it for 8K, I'm still making 2,000 MT profit. That's where the bidding on this method becomes so valuable to do. We got this Julius Erving here for 2.8. I bought it for 2.8 and I sold it for 3.5, making like a couple hundred MT. Again, it's not amazing, but it was there, so I thought, why not? Now, this one I'm not too happy about when I did it. Like, I look at it now and I'm not too happy about it. 10.7, and I bought mine for 8.9. Now, if you sell a card for 10K, you get 9k after tax. So looking back on this one, I shouldn't have bought this one, but I was still obviously trying to experiment just to see how often I can pick up these players. As you can see, I can pick up quite a few of them. Like, it's actually really easy to go out and pick some of these players. So again, I'm not going to give away all my players that I use. I'll give away like one like that I use. But again, guys, this is definitely a method that you guys have to go out and do yourself. I'll just go check this Singular. Like, where's the Singular? Because Singular, like, I did this yesterday. I actually was recording a video, and you'll see it in if you saw yesterday's video where I discussed tokens, you'll have seen this method. I bought, I think it was 2 Symbolars, or maybe I wasn't recording, but I picked up 2 Symbolars for 900 MT on a buy now, which was insane. They don't even up for like 2 minutes. So again, it's all, again, sniping is just all about being at the right place at the right time. It's also about obviously being quite lucky. So 2.6 there. I think I'm listing mine for 2.8. But Thornmaker is more of a card that, because he has a dynamic duo with Isaac. Does he have a dynamic duo with Isaac Bonga? Or am I thinking of someone else? I think I'm thinking of Bamba. But regardless, Thornmaker is such a glitchy card, especially when it comes around to like limited and stuff. Not many people use him now, but he is still very much a usable card. So 2.6 there. So I know if I sell a card for 2.6 roughly, or 2.7, I'm going to make about 2,400 MT after tax. So what I do then is I bid around 2,150 or 2,200, just so there is that wiggle room, just so there is that obviously, just so it's more like an error on the side of caution. Now what I would do as well is I would type in a notepad, or I write it down how much I would look to sell this card for. So 2,600. You take off 260 off of that, you get about, off the top of my head, 2,340 off the top of my head. So that's how much you get after you sell a card. So obviously you want to err on the side of caution. If you get outbid, whatever, you just move on to the next card. Now this Biombo, I missed them. There was 2 Biombos here that were on a bid, but I think I must have missed them while recording this, which is a little unfortunate, but again, it's not the end of the world. So the cheapest Biombos here is like 4k. So again, you can just sit on this one for 43 minutes. I wish you had like a watch list where you could put cards on, and then obviously you don't have to keep coming back to the card to check on the time. I wish 2K would implement a watch list, but unfortunately it's not. It's just not a thing in 2K, which is a little unfortunate. So there's some for 5Ks, one for 3.7 there. So obviously my 3.5 one would have sold anyway, so that's all good. And those 4K ones are gone as well, which is a little interesting. So again, we got one for 50 minutes. Again, it's just one that you can probably keep in the back of your head. This Chris Paul was actually really good for me as well. I said I'd only give you guys one, but apparently I'm giving you guys a full set, apparently. So again, 4.5 here. There's one for 3k, so we're just going to pick up this 3k, and we're going to probably list this Chris Paul up for maybe about 4k, maybe 4.2 or something, just because we are still undercutting. And yeah, it's just overall, again, I would recommend you scroll all the way through, unless you know 100% it is a deal. I would recommend you scroll all the way through just to make sure it is a deal. But we're going to pick up this Chris Paul, and we shall list him up. All right, so we got a Jason Kidd. Now I'll explain the Jason Kidd in a little bit. So we'll get Chris Paul in there, we'll chuck Ben Wallace in there, and we'll chuck Jason Kidd in there. Now, Jason Kidd is part of the clutch set. Now, I wasn't too bothered if I didn't pick this card up, because the cheapest here is 12.8. I bid 8k on it, just because if I won it, all right, cool, I can make obviously a little bit of MT off of him. But also, if I got outbid, wasn't really too bothered, just because it is the clutch set. Not many people are after the clutch set anymore. That's something you have to take into account as well, is how popular the set is. Obviously, clutch cards are not that popular. There are some certain cards, like obviously Kareem, which literally 10 minutes, I think, before I started recording this video, I checked Kareem. There was one here for 16k. So I don't know whether someone's bought this one for 16k. Was it 15 minutes ago? Might have been like a half hour ago. I don't know. I've been doing this for a while. But I think someone's bought that 16k and tried to list him up for 100k. So yeah, but this Jason Kidd, we got him for around 8k, so I'm gonna list him up for about 12k. If he does sell for 12k, I do make about 2,000 MT profit off that, so not too bad out of that. And of course, we do get the auction house refund as well. So I think it was about 800 MT, so we get an extra 800 MT profit from that. So, well, obviously we just get it back. So we'll list this up for. What I'd like to do as well is maybe do this, just in case, you know. It does happen sometimes where obviously people don't want to pay that 12k, but maybe someone will pay 11k. So I list it up for 12 hours, and normally they do sometimes sell overnight for the 12k. If it doesn't, obviously you just list it back up again. And because I have obviously that wiggle room of, obviously I got it for 8k, I know literally I can sell this card for 9k to break even. So everything I sell it above that is profit. Now this Ben Wallace, did I get this Ben Wallace in the bit earlier in the video? I think I did. So Ben Wallace 4k here. Again, we'll just keep scrolling. Again, this wouldn't usually be a card that I'm interested in, just because it is a bit of scrolling, but it's not, you know, overly bad. So 3,000 MT there. Now, I wish I remembered how much I bid on this card. I really do, but Again, this is why you should write it down. So I'll list this Ben Wallace up for maybe like 2.9, just because obviously it's a slight undercut, and sometimes, guys, you just have to be a bit of a tool and just undercut them instantly. It does happen. It is unfortunate, but that's just the nature of the beast, apparently. Unfortunately, the Thornmaker is one for 3,200 there. I can't remember what Thornmaker's price was going for. So I know Chris Paul, I picked him up for 3K. I'm gonna list this up for 4.2 or 4.1, just because I know the cheapest at the time was about 4.5. Obviously, we're undercutting people there. And let's go check this Thornmaker's price, because I genuinely cannot remember what his price was. So let's go check. So we're bidding on them to, I think it was 2.6. Yeah, so we'll list ours up for 2.6, and we shall go from there. Now, in cases like this, where obviously you were undercutting yourself, I don't think it's that bad, because odds on, because this Thornmaker is a fair price, I know Space with Birds talks about this quite regularly, because this Thornmaker is at a fair price, it's at a decent price, you will still most likely sell this card for 3.2. Obviously, just because some people will just see a Thornmaker for 3.2. Like, guys, you have to remember, the whole MyTeam Twitter, like, Reddit group, the whole, like, player base from, like, Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube and stuff, is a very small minority of this of the actual player base of this game. Maybe not so much, like, now, because obviously we're at the end of the season, but there are a lot of players that play this game that you just don't know are there. Like, they don't know YouTube, they don't know Twitter, they just play the game and they have fun, kind of. And yeah, they just go from there. So obviously this 2.6, obviously I'm undercutting myself. But guys, I'll be brutally honest, I do think this 3.2 one will sell, I'll be honest. Unless someone like proper undercuts me, because I've sold cards, like, you can do this thing called mass listing or mass bidding, where basically you buy like 10 of each card, and you list it for a certain price. So you say you buy like 1,000 of an emerald card. You list that emerald card up for then 2,000. Odds on you're probably gonna sell like 2 or 3 of those, like based on listing them. And you've made obviously 6K on those, and it costs you 10K to buy obviously all 10 of them. So you made 6K back already. You still have 7 of them. It's a weird method. It definitely is a risky method, but it definitely does work. It's not one I'm really that interested in, just because again I'm not too big into risks in my team, I guess. That's why I don't really do much investing. Now, onto the cards that I've won. So, remember when I said I was worried about that Steve Nash? It actually sold. And that Chris Webber? That Chris Webber sold. I am generally shocked that Chris Webber sold. Because I got undercut for 17K. That 17K was gone as well. Boys, we have made some bank with that Chris Webber. Now, what I would recommend you guys do, I would recommend you use lower tier cards. Like, cards that are worth 4 or 5K. Obviously, you take an odd punt at like a 16K one, but I would recommend you guys, goddamn, I struggle with that. I would recommend you guys use lower tier cards, just because if you do lose some profit, obviously say you for some reason you buy a card for 40K and you list it for 46K. Imagine 3 people undercut you. You're probably not selling that card, and then you check the price again, it's gone down to like 38K. Now take off tax, you probably lost about 5K. Odds on with you, you're probably gonna lose like 1 or 2K max, to be honest, like on a card. And odds on the one card you lose empty on, you probably made like, I don't know, 15 or 20K on 10 other cards. Like obviously all them 10 other cards combined. So definitely, guys, go out and try this method. It's a really phenomenal method. Again, guys, what I'm gonna do is I will just redeem all the ones I have here, just because I have some quite a few decent ones. Like obviously we have this Bailey Howell. Bailey Howell's actually a really good one as well. So this Kyrie Irving, as you can see, that one that I bought for 9K, the one that literally has got undersold. That was a Ruby Chris Paul in there. Robert Parrish, obviously the one I told about earlier. Isaiah Thomas. That was a weird one. That's a really funny one. As you can see, I have a Chris Paul there that's sold for 4K, so I know realistically I can sell mine for 4K. So no issues there. There's that other Kyrie Irving that sold for 7.8. So solid profit there, boys. Solid profit overall. But yeah, boys, that's it for the video. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please smash a like on the video. It does help your boy out a ton. I should see you guys all here. I hope you take care and peace. I want to give a massive shout out to channel members Waze, Hans, Lewis, Wallow, Casey, Magic Magpie, Michael, Mario, Kia, Hammer, Jack, Lindsay, and Josh's mum. Thank you guys so much for all your support.